Szóval, ja, komoly problémák lesznek itt velünk, hogyha tényleg nyílbe üti a Netflix a felvásárlást. Konkrétan az elmúlt 5-10 évben ezzel az egész LGBTQ, DEI kultúrával akkora mínuszba verte magát, mint a Warner Bros., mint a Paramount, hogy felvásárolják őket, baznak olyan cégek, mint a Netflix, meg az Amazon. Hogy ja, durva, az meg. Hát nézzük
Well,
meg.
stick me in a dress and call me Shirley, because this story seems to have more twists and turns than an Agatha Christie novel. Just when you thought it was
Yeah.
all over, along comes a last-minute play to completely change the game. It seemed like only yesterday I was reporting on the sale of Warner Brothers to Netflix after an intense bidding war with Paramount in a $100 billion mega deal that seemed to signal a shift in the balance of power in Hollywood's. The beginning of the end for both the studio system and the theatrical release model, as all the major players were slowly being gobbled up and absorbed into the streaming giants.
A Netflix az most kb. Ugyanazt csinálja, ugyanazt történik a filmvilágban, a Netflixen keresztül, mint ami történik a játékvilágban, például a Sony és a Naughty Dogon keresztül, hogy oké, adnak nekünk tartalmakat, amiket élvezünk, amik jók, jó, hogy kényelmesen otthonról el tudunk érni mozifilmeket, az már mindegy, hogy milyen minőségűek, mert némelyik ugye más nem tartalmaz az üzeneten kívül. Ugyanez a játékiparban is, ugye, mint a Naughty Dog, hogy oké, ilyen cinematic játékokat tesznek le nekünk, mint a Last of Us, de ezzel együtt meg ugye jóformán kinyírnak egy egész franchise-t, nem is egy franchise-t, hanem egy ipart, mert így az embereknek ez tetszik. Hogy a játékok elfelejtenek szépen lassan játékok lenni, és már inkább egyfajta filmekké avanzsálódnak. És most ugyanezt csinálja a Netflix is, hogy az emberek már pont ezért nem mennek moziba, mert otthon egy előfizetéssel ugyanazt jó formán eléred, mint amit a moziba is látsz. Ugye, ki se kell lépned a házadból. Hát ugye a Paramount is, ugye a Netflix, az Amazon is konkrétan így, érted? Van, hogy day one-ba ott vannak a filmek, érted? A könyvtárba, amiket meg tudsz nézni, ha van előfizetésed. Miért mennél moziba?
But then Paramount took a look at the situation and decided...
Maybe so, sir. But not today.
And promptly upped their bid to a frankly ludicrous $111 billion, at which point Netflix decided,
Jesus.
yeah, fuck that, bro, we're out. And just like that, Paramount had pulled victory from the jaws of defeat, seeing off Netflix in an exercise of raw financial power. But what the hell does this even mean for the future of filmmaking, theatrical releases, and the massive slate of IPs and divisions under the Warner Brothers umbrella? Because let's not mince words here, Paramount now control a pretty massive slice of the media landscape.
nagyon
Not
komoly
just
címek vannak
entertainment
a Paramount
IPs,
alatt.
movies and TV shows, but news networks as well. What are they going to do with all this power and influence?
Semmit.
Well, to answer that question, you should probably consider the man at the top of this particular pyramid, David Ellison, the billionaire owner of Paramount Skydance and the son of Larry Ellison, the world's third richest man with a net worth of almost $250 billion.
Fuck.
Ellison started in the industry by founding Skydance Media back in 2006 with nothing more than a little elbow grease, some can-do attitude, and yes, a massive infusion of money from his dad's. What can I say, man? Having the world's third richest man as your father probably has a few perks. Anyway, fast forward a couple of decades and David was keen to expand his business empire, and one quick and efficient way to do that was to buy out the struggling Paramount Pictures, which was the studio equivalent of a fixer-upper. It had lots of valuable IPs and networks under its control, but years of bad decisions and corporate restructures meant that it no longer had the resources and confidence to exploit them. That's great and all, but you might think that the FCC would have a thing or two to say about such a huge merger of corporations, especially when it comes to news channels like CBS on the line. Not to worry though, because as it turns out, David is good pals with the man in the White House, and I kinda like to imagine the conversation played out something like this.
What do you want?
Hey Don, any chance you could lean on the FCC and get them to approve that Skydance merger for me? I sure would appreciate it, buddy.
I don't know about that, Dave. People might have questions.
Well, if you could make this happen, I'll fire everyone at CBS and replace them with people who only say nice things about you.
Consider it done.
Cheers, bro. And so, approval was granted.
De hogy ezek azok az emberek, tudod, akik azt mondják, hogy a boldogsághoz nem kell pénz. Elég, ha a faterod bazd meg a világ harmadik leggazdagabb embere. Milyen jó? Utána meg ezek azok az emberek, akik meg olyan döntéseket hoznak, hogy vízben oldódó szívószállal kell inni az üdítőt a McDonald'sban. A kurva anyjukat.
And the deal went ahead. Paramount became Paramount Skydance, and David set his sights on his next target, Warner Brothers, another studio with a shitload of potential and a ton of IPs that it's mostly too stupid or too incompetent to properly exploit. And funnily enough, another news network in need of, reconfiguring.
Ahoy there?
Don, it's me again. Listen, you know how you pulled some strings at the FCC for that Paramount merger? Well, I could use your help again. I'm buying Warner Brothers this time.
I don't know if I can do this a second time, Dave.
They have CNN.
We've got a deal.
The upshot of all this is that I wouldn't expect too many regulatory hurdles for this particular deal, and if you happen to be a big fan of CNN...
You'll be seeing a lot of changes around here.
But what does it mean for the entertainment side of things, which is what we're really interested in here? Well, based on Ellison's previous work as a producer for Skydance, it's not difficult to see where his creative sensibilities lie. He's very much an action guy, with a heavy lean-in towards male-driven properties with traditional heroes, and how can I put this? I don't think he's exactly a big fan of... The Message. In fact, considering Paramount Plus is rapidly turning into the Taylor Sheridan network, I think it's fair to say this guy sees Middle America for what it is, a potentially huge market that's been badly neglected in recent years, mostly by people who absolutely hate them. Imagine for a moment if there was a network that catered to their interests. Now, as you can probably surmise, the prospect of a multi-billionaire with conservative leanings merging two of the biggest studios in Hollywood together under his personal control went down about as well as expected with the usual crowds. Oh dear, it's a bit scary when you don't have an absolute stranglehold on modern culture and have to compete with other creatives that don't share your particular worldview, isn't it? Pass me the world's smallest violin, will you? I mean, considering Ellison owns Paramount already, his first order of business should have been to nuke Kurtzman Trek from orbit, decanonize every show they've ever sharted out into the world, and have the entire secret hideout team forcibly escorted out of the building. Fuck it, you can just buy out their contracts if you have to. It's not like you're short on money, but whatever you do, just get those useless retards out of there. But what about Warner Brothers' other IPs like Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, Harry Potter, and the entire DCU? Well, I'd be lying if I said I was disappointed they weren't going to fall under Netflix's control. I mean, Jesus, could you even begin to imagine what a Netflix adaptation of Lord of the Rings would look like?
Úristen, ne is beszéljünk, hát meg lehet nézni a Paramountnak, az Amazonnak a Lord of the Rings verzióját. Az is bazd meg. És a vicc az, hogy ugye azok az emberek, akik nem látták az eredeti film, ugye a rendes filmet még 2002-ből Peter Jacksontól, és vagy nem olvasták egyáltalán a könyvet se, azok teljesen el vannak ájulva tőle, hogy mennyire jó show. Az egész egy fanfiction. Konkrétan semmi más az egész, csak egy kitalált baromság, ami felhasznál neveket, meg helyszíneket a könyvből. Komolyan illegálissá kéne ezt tenni, bazd meg.
They just have dodged the biggest bullet in entertainment history. Wouldn't get too comfortable in that Warner Brothers office if I were you, James. That being said, I'm not going to pretend that this is an ideal outcome by any stretch, and I don't particularly love the idea of independent studios merging together into homogenous mega corporations, because let's be honest,
Yeah.
it's bad for competition and bad for creativity. But, on the other hand, if ever there was a definitive signal that the age of identity politics and the message has come to an end in Hollywood, I think this just might be it. The great experiment that's decimated pop culture for the past decade is well and truly over. Good fucking riddance. The only question now is when can the age of rebuilding begin? Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
Szóval úgy néz ki, hála az égnek, akkor a Netflixes felvásárlás, annak így annyi. Hú, bázd meg. Meleg volt a pite. Nagyon. De hát nézzünk meg egy újabb próbálkozását ennek a csodás DEI kultúrának. A Star Trek Academy.
So, I think it's safe to say that Starfleet
Jesus
Academy
Christ,
hasn't
bár
exactly
az
been the
első
resounding
kép geci.
success that Paramount were hoping for. What with it failing to chart on the Nielsen ratings at all, crashing out of Paramount's own top 10 within a few weeks of release, the abysmal audience scores on every major review site, and the first episode released free on YouTube gaining less views than an average video of mine. And when the
Szóval
episode released free on YouTube gaining less views than an
az első epizód az meg lehet tekinteni ugye ingyenesen, bazd meg. Szóval a Critical Thinkernek egy videója erről a tartalomról 1 millió, több mint 1 millió megtekintése van. Hallod? Többet keres ezzel a videóval a Critical Thinker, mint a Paramount ezzel az első epizóddal, bazd meg. Csak a YouTube-on keresztül.
average video of mine. And when the worst
Holy
happens and
shit.
everyone's taking a massive steaming dump on the massive steaming dump that you've produced, there's
Ja,
only
várjál, és közben meg a Paramount úgy próbálja promózni a terméket, úgy próbálja promózni a dolgot, hogy konkrétan lelöveti a YouTube-bal még a képtartalmat is, copyrightot kapsz. Még a képre is. Csak hogy nem mutassál semmi olyan tartalmat, amik ők osztanak meg. Szóval, hogy ilyen nagyon-nagyon vékony jégen jár az ember, aki megoszt, mit tudom én, hangot. Én is például kaptam ugye egy copyrightot. Nem sztrájkoltak meg, csak kaptam egy figyelmeztetést, hogy a trélert ennek a show-nak bejátszottam. És küldött egy copyright claimt ugye a Paramount nekem. Mi a fasz? A trailerét mutattam meg, nem a show-t. Miről beszélünk? A Paramount az nagyon keményen próbálja ugye így elrejteni youtuberek elől, meg kritikusok elől ezt a show-t, akik egyértelműen ugye lehúzzák, vagyis hát nem egyértelműen, hanem mondjuk úgy, hogy inkább logikus szemmel nézve, ugye ez a show, ez semmi. Ez a show, ez semmi más, csak egy újabb Ring of the Power. Egy fanfiction, aminek semmi köze nincsen a benne játszódó világhoz. Csak nevek és helyszínek vannak benne, és annak hívják a show-t, aminek hívják.
only one sensible course of action. Cope. And by golly, did the cope come hard and fast with this one. No, you see, this series is actually good if you look at it from a certain point of view. This show wasn't made for stodgy old Trek fans like you, it was written for the next generation. People are just review bombing this show because it's diverse and progressive, not because it's bad. Star Trek has always been diverse and progressive, so shut up and don't question how this
Miről
contradicts
beszélünk? Ja, bazd meg, már 90-es években is, a 80-as években is le se szarták az emberek, tele volt, érted? Most tök mindegy, hogy milyen színű emberekkel. Alienekkel volt tele. Mennyi diversity kell ezeknek az embereknek, hogy észrevegyék, hogy mennyire hülyék?
The previous point. Just like what we tell you to like and be happy, god damn it. I've seen it all, man. Or at least I thought I had. But this latest defense has got to be the saddest and most desperate move even I could have imagined, coming courtesy of Subspace Chatter on Substack. Quote, it seems people, let's call them the usual suspects, began review bombing Star Trek Starfleet Academy almost as soon as it premiered a few weeks ago. These weren't thoughtful critiques, these were folks just reflectively and maliciously slapping the new series with a minimum 1-star rating on review aggregator sites like IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes.
Are you serious?
Mi? They weren't thoughtful critiques. These were folks just reflectively, maliciously slapping the news. Szóval azok az emberek, akik a Star Trek-ken nőttek fel, azok, akik nem szeretik ezt a show-t, és csak szándékosan egy csillagra értékelik az IMDb-n és a Rotten Tomato-n. Szóval egyértelmű, szóval most megint az van, hogy a fenek, ugye a rajongók azok, akik a hülyék. Nem pedig a show szar. Szóval nem a shownak nincsen köze a Star Trekhez, hanem a rajongók azok, akik nem értenek a Star Trekhez. Fasza.
Like IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes.
Are you serious?
I mean, honestly, I think giving it 1 star is being generous because that implies the presence of something worthwhile in the show, no matter how small or deeply buried. And well, that would be a lie. Is Starfleet Academy perfect? Nope. Is it too cheesy at times? Absolutely. But if we keep complaining and tank its rankings just because it's not how we think Star Trek should be, the only outcome is that it gets cancelled and we get nothing else. Whoa. Wait just a second there, Missy. You're suggesting that people should give this show a free pass because if they're too mean to it, it might kill off Star Trek altogether?
What you just
Szóval igen, hogyha nem fogadod el ezt a show-t, és nem értékeled megfelelően, akkor semmilyen show-t nem kapsz, ami Star Trekhez kapcsolódik. Ez kőkemény manipuláció.
said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
I mean, you understand how insane that is, right? Just accept the absolute dog shit you've been served up on the slim chance that you might be given something slightly less shit at some indeterminate point in the future.
Szóval örüljünk neki, hogy ez ennyire szar, mert hogyha ez nem tetszik, akkor jövőben lehet, hogy még szarabb lesz.
How about no?
Call me crazy, but I tend to take the opposite view on this kind of thing. If a company produces a product that basically everyone hates, it's important to let them know just how badly they've fucked up. Otherwise, they're going to keep doing it because you're giving them no incentive to change. Starfleet Academy, just like Section 31 and Discovery before it, is exactly the kind of show that Alex Kurtzman and his gang of hapless retards at Secret Hideout want to make. This is their vision of what Star Trek should be, and if you let them get away with it through some kind of benign indifference in the hopes they'll get better by themselves, then of course they'll keep making more of it because it's exactly what they want to do. They have to be corrected, sir. Fans would be better served finding things in the shows they do like and providing constructive feedback on what they'd like to see more of. Well, therein lies your problem, because I'll be honest here, I can't find anything in this show that I like. The characters, the writing, the set design, the performances, the emotional tone, the themes and ideas, they all have about as much in common with actual Star Trek as I do with Rachel Zegler.
Ránézel arra a kurva goblinra, és elkap az ideg.
There are literally no redeeming qualities about this show. Every episode is nothing but 60 minutes of soul-sucking, brain-destroying, morale-sapping misery. It's an absolute insult to the Star Trek legacy, an insult to the craft of filmmaking, and an insult to basic human intelligence, and to pretend otherwise is just flat out lying to yourself. And well, Why the fuck should you? The constant drumbeat of it all sucks and everyone needs to be fired isn't going to result in anything constructive. Instead, it's likely to result in Paramount shelving Trek for another 15 years.
Oh no!
Oh dear,
Oh
you're threatening
no.
me with a good time now, aren't you? But joking aside here, I think we've come down to it at last. The crux of the matter. The inescapable truth around which this entire show folds like...
An origami chicken.
Fuck me, I can't believe a functional human being wrote that line. Either way though, the result is the same. It's time to let Star Trek die. And believe me, I take no pleasure in saying that, but there it is. This franchise
Amúgy én
is
se
fucking
értem,
cooked.
amúgy én se értem, hogy miért kell nekünk mindig új reboot, meg új show. Hogy tényleg ennyire kihaltak azok az emberek, akik régen ezeket a dolgokat kitalálták, és tényleg nem tudnak előjönni valami egyedivel, hogy csak rebootok és remake-ek élnek, és ráadásul utána azok meg szarok lesznek, ahelyett, hogy ha valaki tényleg akar nézni egy jó Star Trek-et, akkor az bazdmeg nem ilyeneket néz. Ez ilyen egyszerű. Hát ezért vannak ezek a streaming szervizek, nem? Ezért fizetsz, mert hozzáférsz akkor a régi, az eredeti showhoz, aminek még volt is értelme.
Cooked, man. It's like a blind old incontinent dog that can't walk anymore. As much as you loved it and treasure the good times you had together, keeping it alive in this condition isn't helping anyone. It's just prolonging the inevitable. The truth is that for all intents and purposes, Star Trek died 20 years ago with the cancellation of Enterprise. And fuck me, as stale and mediocre as that show was at the time, it's a goddamn masterpiece compared to anything we've had since. Yeah, we've been treated to
Hát ezt mondtam én is már egyszer, hogy ezek azok a show-k, amik egy teljesen átlagos filmet fölemelnek, és konkrétan értékelhetővé válnak az ember szemébe. Ezért mondják azt az emberek, tudod, hogy a 90-es évek volt az aranyérája a filmiparnak. Ezek a mai show-k meg szépen lassan fölemelik a platinum érába. Mert egyszerűen értékelhetetlenek és nézhetetlenek.
some big flashy space action movies with the Star Trek name plastered over them, and we got a little nostalgic glimmer of past glory with that final season of Picard, but for all intents and purposes, the spirit of Star Trek died a long time ago. All that's left now is a shambling zombie franchise, kept going with increasingly desperate TV shows that nobody asked for and even fewer people enjoy. The idea of shelving this franchise and just letting it rest for 10 or 15
A
years...
Star Trek-et én pont azért szerettem, mert ugye Star Trek az a jövőben játszódik az emberi fajjal. És hogy milyen konfliktusok vannak, milyen politikai nézetek vannak más fajokkal, más fajok között, hogyan megyünk, segítünk, hogyan jönnek ők, segítenek nekünk, felfedezés, adventure, érted? Egy korrekt sci-fi volt.
Sounds like exactly what it needs. It needs a fucking break. It needs time for the wounds of Kurtzman Trek to heal. It needs time for the fandom to feel nostalgia for what once was, and anticipation for something new. And more importantly, it needs time for a new generation of writers and creatives to take the helm, because nothing in Star Trek is going to change unless you do something about the people making it. No matter how you try to spin it, the fact is that nothing good is being accomplished by Kurtzman and his team anymore. After almost a decade in control of this franchise, they haven't grown the fandom, they haven't elevated the Star Trek brand to greater cultural awareness, and from a purely business point of view, they haven't made a single fucking penny for Paramount. Nobody's buying Star Trek merch or box sets or taking out Paramount Plus subscriptions to watch Star Trek Discovery. It would be quicker to dump $100 million into a pile and just light the fucking thing on fire. At least that would look cool. Normally I take no pleasure in the idea of people losing their jobs, but in this case, I don't see any other solution here. The Secret Hideout guys have 100% brought this on themselves. Nobody forced them to make shitty Star Trek shows filled with lore-breaking characters and storylines. Nobody forced them to prioritize the message over good storytelling, and nobody forced them to lash out and criticize the very fans they needed to win over. They are entering into the finding out stage of the fuck around process, and they've got no one to blame but themselves. Star Trek in its current form needs to die, because it's doing nothing except tarnishing its own legacy by continuing to exist. Maybe someday it can come back stronger and better than before, but let's be honest, that time is a long way off. For now, I'd settle for it being left to rest in peace. Anyway, that's all I've got for
Ja.
today. Go away now.
Teljesen igaz. Én is így vagyok vele. Én pont ezért nem is pazarlom az időt, meg nem is. Még a torrentet se pazarlom az ilyen show-kra. Én nem néztem meg se ezt, se a Lord of the Ring Power baszást, azt se tudom mi a neve, se a Last of Us sorozatot, Harry Potter is hamarosan jön, annak se látom értelmét, hogy miért pazarolnám rá a torrentet vagy az időt. Nevetséges, komolyan. Ezek azok a show-k, amik több tartalmat készítenek, ugye több sikeres tartalmat készítenek ugye a youtuberek ezekből a show-ból, mint amekkora a show egyébként. Ja. Szóval, ja, Mandalorian is. Amilyen jól indult, ugye az első évaddal, most arra már teljesen elszakadt. Ez nevetséges, komolyan már második részben is lehetett érezni, hogy van baj. Itt meg totál elesett.